Okay, so this is the last set of practice problems for this unit that we'll be doing. We're going to be looking at representing contexts using equations. In other words, basically using a story and setting up an equation. So, for instance, in this one that we have right here, we've got to match each situation with one of the equations that are here. Okay, we got this. A whale is diving at a rate of 2 meters per second. How long will it take the whale to get from the surface to an elevation of negative 12 meters at that rate? So we know when we have a rate that we're going to be multiplying, okay? So, and we know that the whale is diving, which means he's going down further into the ocean. So that means he's going negative 2 meters per second. So we would obviously be multiplying that times the number of seconds. They used x for all of the variables over here, so that would be x, negative 2x. We want it to equal negative 12. So that means that we see that right here with number 3. That's the equation that we wrote. So I'm going to put A right next to equation 3. Next, a swimmer dove below the surface of the ocean. After 2 minutes, she was 12 meters below the surface. At what rate was she diving? The swimmer dove below after 2 minutes. So now we're looking at the time, and they want to know how, like in the one before, we knew the distance, whereas this one, we know the time. So I know it's 2 minutes multiplied times whatever the rate is, and she has to end 12 meters below the surface, so it would be negative 12, and that is right here with equation 4. So that's choice B. Next, the temperature was negative 12 degrees Celsius. It rose, so it went up. So this is our starting point. What was the change in temperature? So I know it started, oh wait a second, it rose up to 12 degrees. That's where it ended. So this is my start, and this is my end. So therefore my start is negative 12 plus, I don't know what's going to happen to it, and it has to end at 2. And there it is. That's the first equation right here. So I'm going to put C right here. Now, just like in the previous one, we can kind of assume that 2 is, or letter D is matched up with equation number 2, but we really should double check, because what if we find out that it's not? That would mean that we made an error somewhere. So, the temperature was 2 degrees, and it fell to negative 12. So again, we've got our start and our end. So that means we're going to start at 2. I don't know what's going to happen to it, and it has to end at negative 12, which is exactly what I see here for equation 2. So that is where D is going to go. Okay, so here we are, next problem. We're starting at noon. The temperature dropped steadily at a rate of 0.8 or 0.8 degrees Celsius every hour. For each of these situations, write and solve an equation describing what your variable means. Okay, so we haven't written any let statements in a while, but that's okay. We certainly still know how to do that. How many hours did it take for the temperature to decrease by 4.4 degrees Celsius? Okay, so the thing that we're looking for is how many hours. So I'm going to write a very simple let statement here that says let H equal the number of hours for the temp to decrease, because that's what we're looking for. That's the missing thing. Okay, and we want it to get to, it's going to decrease, so it has to get to, or decrease by, so it's going to go down that much. So I know that this is the rate, so I know that it's going down, so it'll be negative 0.8 times the number of hours, h, equals negative 4.4. Okay, so that's a simple enough equation to solve. So I'm actually going to come over here. Oh, well, first of all, we know how do we solve this. We know the opposite of multiplying times 0.8, or negative 0.8, would be to divide by negative 0.8. Those two cancel. I'm left with h equals. So let's see what's going to happen here. I know I've got two negatives. Two negatives when they're together, that's an even number, so then my answer is going to end up positive for sure. And in order to divide by a decimal, I can't, so I need to move that one over, which means I move the top one over. Lovely. So now we're looking at how many times does 8 go into 44? Well, I know that 8 times 5 is 40. So I'm going to say that that's 5. But 5 times 8, like I said, is 40. So 44 minus 4 is going to leave me with another 4. So I'm going to put that decimal here and put a 0 at the end. And I've got 4 left over, so that's another 40. I plop my decimal in, and it's another 5. So h is equal to 5.5 or 5.5 hours. Well, that was fun. Next. If the temperature after the 4.4 degree drop was negative 2.5 degrees Celsius, what was the temperature at noon? Okay. So the thing that we're missing, what was the temperature at noon? So I'm going to say let n equal the noon temp. Okay. So the temperature after the 4.4 degree drop became this. So that means my original temperature is my noon temp. Oh no, noon is where I'm going to end up. So that one's worded a little funny because it doesn't say which one is, what was the temperature at noon. So I'm saying we're starting it at noon time. It's kind of weird how it's worded. It took me a second. So my temperature at noon is my starting place. So I've got n, and I know it's going to drop 4.4 degrees. So I'm going to keep in how I was in the last problem without a negative. So I'm going to say plus negative 4.4. And I know that it's going to end up equaling negative 2.5. So here we go, another one of those really straightforward problems. What's the opposite of plus? Negative 4.4? Well, that would be minus negative 4.4. Minus negative 4.4. These cancel, I'm left with n equals. So, oh boy, this is always fun. Stay, change, change, cha-cha-cha. I'm going to write this off to the side. So it's stay, change, change, cha-cha-cha. Don't forget to cha-cha-cha or you'll get it wrong. And now the signs are different. Find the difference. So of course I'm going to be using these absolute values. And I know I'm going to have 4.4 minus 2.5. Okay, well I know if that was 4.5 minus 2.5, that would be 2. But since it's 4.4, it's a tenth less, so I know that my answer is going to be 1.9. If you didn't understand that, make sure you come and see me. And now I take the sign of the larger absolute value, which of course is 4.4, and that sign is positive. So I'm going to send that over here as positive 1, oops, that's still positive 1.9 degrees Celsius. Find the value of each expression. Oh, this is just so fun. Okay, here we are. We've got 12 plus negative 10. So the signs are different. Find the difference. So that would mean absolute values of both of these. So I do 12 minus 10, which of course is 2. And the larger absolute value would be 12. So my answer is positive 2. Next, I get to stay, change, change, cha-cha-cha. And now the signs are the same, find the sum. So that means I get to have 5 plus 6, which of course is 11. And both of those original signs are negative. That's why we added them. So I've got negative 11. I'm adding. Signs are different. Find the difference. Here we go. Finding the difference of 42 minus 17. Now, let's take 42 and take away 10 first. That would be 32. And the 32 take away 7. Well, the 2 from the 7 would bring me to 30. 5 less, that would be 25. And the sign of the larger absolute value would be the 42, and that was negative, so my answer is negative 25. Next, 35 minus negative 8. Stay, change, change, cha-cha-cha. Oh, I've got simple, straightforward addition. 35 plus 8. Well, 5 plus 8 is 13, so 35 plus 8 would be 43. Of course, that's positive. We are dealing with integers, so I'm going to throw that in there. Not incredibly necessary, but it doesn't hurt to have it on there either. Okay, negative 4 1/2 plus 3. So I'm adding, so the signs are different. Find the difference. So I've got 4 1/2 minus 3. Well, I don't have a fraction as part of the 3. So really all I'm looking at is the 4 minus 3. 4 minus 3, of course, is 1. And 1/2 that's left over isn't subtracting any kind of fraction. So it's 1 1/2. The larger absolute value, of course, is 4 1/2. So I look there. That means my sign needs to be negative. Easy peasy. Next. Markings on the number line are evenly spaced. Label the other markings on the number line. Okay then. So I've got from here to here is negative 30, and halfway between 0 and 30, well, negative 30 really, well, half of 30 is 15, so that would mean that this should be negative 15. And if I keep going, this becomes negative 45. Next one is negative 60. Next one is negative 75. Going in the other direction, now going to the right, my numbers are positive. So the first hash mark after 0 would be positive 15. Next one would be 30. And then, of course, after that would be my 45. Looks like things are good.